Okay, so as we start turn 7 here, we regained our other catapult. The Crusaders once again chose to bombard, and the Muslims chose to commit the army of Egypt again this turn. Basically, the feeling in both cases is, it's unlikely that I'd want to do an assault, but so I basically made a roll on a 1 I would have done an assault. I'm just trying to give some insight into kind of these spur-of-the-moment decisions I make to randomize things. Then with the tunneling, I decided to split the Crusader points, and they both failed. 2 points into this, well, failed right away, and 2 points into this one failed right away. So I wasted a couple of tunneling points. Because there are no tunnels nearby, I did commit 2 points to anti-mining operations for the Muslims, but there's nothing that's in range. So I'm not going to try to figure out how they'd randomize their decisions and try to create a narrative of what they're doing out there. It's just unimportant. It does lose something of the game. If I were playing a 2-player, obviously the Muslim player would be, making shots and saying, now I know something, and then think that the tunneling should be done somewhere else. And this kind of thing can get into sort of a psychological type issue where you make a decision that you know something off of maybe, like a blast like that last one where I blanketed one area and then said, he's not there. Well, if the tunnel hadn't collapsed, I would have known that. But it's quite possible there could be another tunnel right near the walls right now. And if I blasted one area this turn, well, it means I wouldn't hit that area next turn. And there's no reason... I'm not going to play out all that kind of psychological thinking, because mainly I won't remember it all. If I was playing turn after turn straight up, I would, but I'm not right now. Anyway. So the next time it'll be kind of random where the Muslim goes and where the Crusader chooses to lead his tunneling. So this one's failing pretty badly. So he may choose to go after this attack instead, or he may choose to try to go fast off this one to further hit another wall segment there, because he got one lucky one. Who knows? All right. So I guess we're on to the regular bombards, which are as usual. Down to turn 8, and for good or ill, kind of a spreading out. This had been completely breached of the wall. The Crusaders don't want to waste a shot, so if they've got a chance of fully breaching something, they don't, on one die, they don't want to throw another die into it. Although there's some advantage to doing so if they're planning on an assault next turn and felt very compelled to do so, they might concentrate more. My feeling from this game, my memory of this game, is the first assault isn't going to work. I don't care how many breaches I have. The Muslim garrison is too powerful. So it becomes since I outnumber the Muslim garrison with my besieging forces, I will be able to reduce it over the course of a 10-phase impulse significantly and make a second assault, which often carries the day. I still have a decent amount of time left in the game. I don't feel like I'm under any great pressure to make my assault yet. So I'm going to hold off. Turn 8 was relatively uneventful. So many are here. But they go by quickly when they are. So what happened? Well, another bombardment phase, obviously. Otherwise I'd be in pretty deep. Crusaders again got flummoxed with 2 quick failed tunneling rolls, so they're nowhere on the tunneling level. And of course the Muslim, if I was playing the Muslim, I'd be shitting bricks about now, because I haven't found anything, and I know there's a long time, and obviously, I don't know that the Crusader's not getting anywhere. I've got to assume he's in here, coming in. I may start upping my search rolls, because I don't remember what turn this was, but we're talking about enough that I'm assuming the Crusaders should be right up on me. Unfortunately, I'm also having trouble maintaining my wall damage repair, even though I allocated 4 dice to it. Nothing got fully breached this time, but you can see I'm up to 2 5s. I gotta feel there's a risk. Not a risk of an assault yet, but a risk of some breaches coming on. I could very well see these couple of walls going next time and maybe something being collapsed on me fairly soon. So I've got to be pretty worried there. Not much else happened, I don't think. Nothing to really talk about. 9 was a little bit more interesting. Let's see what happened. First of all, within the tunneling front, now the Muslims don't see any of this, but I've got 2 moving down here and 2 moving down here. And indeed, the Muslim defenders went to a balanced 3 points of anti-mine working and sappers working there, and 3 points to the wall engineering. The wall engineering didn't help them much. Well, it helped a little bit. We had 2 breaches here. We've got 1 left, and now we've got 2 walls at level 5. And now comes the hard part, because this round might be worth launching an assault. The thinking being, well, I got my towers that could advance on this side of the wall. I could be hitting here. The Muslim is certainly even more afraid than the Christian player is on this circumstance, because he might be looking at a tunnel being collapsed on this turn, whether or not there's an assault. But if there's an assault planned, a tunnel collapse could mean a 3rd hole that the Crusaders can stream through. Obviously, we've got the ladder assaults, but those are kind of unpleasant, like I've said, although not terribly so. And then we've also got a breach. On the other hand, there are a number of walls that are tempting to leave open for another round of bombardment to see if we can just cave in that whole side of the Muslim defense. So it's going to be one of those turns where both sides have some reason to commit to the assault. If the Muslims commit, well, if either side commits, essentially there automatically is one. If the Muslims commit with their army, though, they might be creating an assault where there wasn't one before. Or they might be seeing the Muslim main army just get chewed off. But it doesn't really make a difference. The Christians can choose to assault the city based on the fact that the Muslim army is attacking. Or they can choose not to, and to fling their defenses at it. Likewise, if the Christians decide on an assault and the Muslim army is coming, and the whole army is coming, well, they may choose not to actually pursue that assault and throw their army in to defeat it. So, it's not like really the timing is all that important. Basically, you're probably going to cost the Crusaders a turn by attacking them. Now, they don't have all that many turns left. We're at turn 10 here, so we're talking 7 turns left to finish this thing. And I got 2 of them I can cancel. Now, in a sense, I'd almost like to let the assault continue, because that is kind of a wasted turn, except that, well, I might lose a bunch of troops. The other thing is, if I can do some serious damage, I don't know. It's definitely this kind of nerve-wracking choice here of whether or not to attack. If there's a tunnel, though, if there's a hunk of the wall that's going to fall down, and I don't know about it beforehand, that could seriously affect things. Of course, the fosse is completely unfilled as of this point, so there's going to be some significant delay that'll slow any Crusader advance down. So I don't feel too terrible. I don't know. It's a hard bit. And over here, I've got only 2 more shots with the army of Mosul, and 3 more shots with the army of Egypt. Which means if there is an assault, that would be the only, if I picked one of them instead, that would be the only thing to kind of harass the Crusaders, as opposed to having the whole army. Of course, all my forces are full strength, right? I don't know. Another uneventful turn, basically. These tunneling expeditions are getting closer. I may stretch this one, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't get under the big tower that I'd love to get. 1, 2, 3, 4, but I could get this tower. I'm right now still out of range of the Muslim searches. From this one, 1, 2, 3, 4. I may actually try to extend different towers, different tunnels, to try to plan where I could maybe launch one after another into the danger zone so that there's less risk of getting caught. I'm not getting a lot of traction over here on the wall damage. I've got one breach. I got decent rolls, but then even with only 3 wall repair rolls, the Muslims are maintaining things. They obviously did not launch an attack. Basically, their feeling of assurance that there was going to be an attack was fairly low, and I did that by a die roll. I did both by a die roll, but I was even less willing from the Crusaders' point of view to launch an attack. But the Muslims are thinking, well, there's a possibility I could be losing a wall, maybe even 2 wall segments this turn. I'm not as certain, and worst comes to worst, I take a turn away from them. So it doesn't, I'm beginning to feel like it doesn't make that much difference when I make my commitment. I'm just stealing a turn from the Crusaders, either a bombardment turn or a turn in which their army would have assaulted, but now maybe they're unwilling to make that assault. Of course, they could make a limited assault if I launch an attack. Whether or not I'm taking anything away from them in that case is harder to tell. But in some senses, I'm looking at, well, the more I run out the clock, the better it is for me as the Muslims, in the sense that I'm not really obligated to throw something big in. Of course, I am using up the Egyptian actions there. Right now I'm at, 6 out of 8 Muslim or Mosul and 4 out of 6 Egyptian. So kind of wishing I had stuck a Mosul action in earlier. The situation looks about the same though, and since they didn't go this time, maybe I can trust the army of Mosul. I don't know. All right, well, we got it this time. The Muslims were certain there's going to be an attack this turn. They threw all their points into counter mining, did a salad in attacks. That gives them another shot at the mines, but the Christians did as I was suggesting, and they're actually branching off more mines. Now, I don't know if they really have much of a chance here. I have 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 rolls to get me there. More distance there. This may have been a waste, except that, I don't know. It's a die roll that I didn't need. I could have thrown a 3rd die roll here, gotten more of a chance there. But we have an assault phase, essentially. Now, this is not desired by the Crusaders. They wanted to hold off more for whatever reason. So that means we don't get to this bombardment and repair phase. Instead, what we end up doing is this assault, which used to say repair but doesn't allow it anymore, phase. And the Muslims get to come on from here all the way around. And obviously, they don't really want to come in the swamp. Remember, their goal is to get 12 of these tents at the end of any phase. Or, another goal, this doesn't win them the game, that one would. Another goal would be to get a unit into Acre somehow. Or into here would count as well, I guess. Which will boost the morale of all of the army. Another relief attempt, as it were, to get some supplies in. So, I got to think a little bit how I'm going to do this, but we're over here on this impulse track. We'll have 10 impulses. The Crusaders get to move first. Do they want to try launching an attack, or are they just going to try to stop Saladin's army? I mean, if I head this way, these guys can come out of the castle or out of the city and actually, cause problems to my siege engines, etc. So I have to leave a garrison in one direction or the other, no matter what. The problems for the Crusaders, they have to move first. They know they're being attacked by the whole army because they didn't declare this assault. If they had declared an assault, then all they would know is that something is coming in, but not what. They wouldn't see this chit until the end of the turn. But the Saladin attacks chit forces an engagement. So I know I'm going to get hit with the whole army, and I feel like what I've got out here probably isn't quite enough to defend it. However, I do have to prevent a breakout from these guys, so I've sent forces in to start filling in the fosse and making an attack. Got the Angevins sliding forward this way, although some of them may have moved too far. I think those guys moved a full 4 hexes and they wouldn't have been in range. I should actually move my king so that he can command his whole force. I've got to be careful and make sure I don't lose my tunnel bases. Neither of those have fired off yet. Now, the Muslims don't know which one went, but they think it's this one. So they'll probably go after these if they get a clear shot at it. But this is not a clear shot, right? As long as I'm in the area, I can intercept and do some damage. They can't move quickly enough to get through there. I did send the Bretons, though, which are kind of fast moving, although this guy was out of command, so he's lagging. The Cav is not out of command ever, so, I've got my Cav units kind of dispatched on this duty outside near the outer works to help defend against any potential attack. Got to be especially careful here where I throw a bunch of Cav in front of this catapult to try to defend it. Now I'm going to come under heavy fire. This is the most defended section of the wall that I'm hitting. Got my towers so that I'll be able to do missile combat. But now, what do I get to move? I get to move my Muslims. All my Muslims, including the ones in the city. Remember, the melee actually swings the other way, though. First these guys fight, then the Crusaders, then the main Muslim army. Alright, and now here we see the entire of Saladin's army pushing against the camp. I've got a couple of places where I've just got lines of these light cav. It's kind of where there are holes or apparent holes in the where the line looks thinner. Elsewhere, though, I've got these what are they called? Phalanx of infantry mixed with archers. With the archers generally in the front to try to punch my way through and push the Crusaders back a little bit. In particular, here is Saladin's guard with the archers of the eye here and the grenadiers. I've got the heavy cav here and here ready to punch through, but the 4 movement points to cross this makes it too difficult. I kind of wanted to throw my this phalanx, which is an all cav, kind of medium cav or whatever. I kind of wanted to throw them here so that they could run through, but they can't cross this. I think for the same reason they can't cross the swamp, if I recall correctly. I didn't look it up, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. Anyway, the idea is to crush their way through the outer works and maybe be able to grab a dozen of these real quick before these guys or the units back here get to react. And this is kind of a tricky thing for the Crusaders because there is definitely a weakness along this whole front. I've got the Bretons to throw forward, though. I've got units from over here because I know everything came on. I can look at the little boxes. It would have been possible to hold things back and bring them on as I wished, which, you know, would maybe prevent this from completely being denuded or whatever. But the way I see it is I want to deliver the biggest blow I can, get my way through the outer works, and then force this fight as best as I can from there. All right, what's our next step? That was our 2 movement. Now we're going to do simultaneous fire combat, and this works the same as in tire. I'll go through it, I guess, at least a little bit of it. So, officially, if we were following the rules completely, you have to declare them all beforehand, but obviously you can't do that, so the rules kind of suggest, well, do it kind of topically or locally. And we'll be doing that here, for example. So I'll look at this and I'll say, okay, these guys are going to shoot. Do I want to shoot the archers? Sure. These guys, what do they want to shoot? Now they're up in this, which means they're able to negate the defensive bonus of the wall. Again, do they want to shoot the archers? Well, let's look at the attenuation. So these are crossbowmen in these cases, and the range is 2, so there's going to be a distance of, the value will be 2 over on this chart, which means I need a 4, 5, or 6 to do anything, and I'm not going to do much. The only really good result is a retreat, so I probably want to combine fire, especially since I'm subtracting 1 for a tower or wall hex. There are certain specific exceptions. The named towers have an additional defensive capability against missile fire. So, again, these are all going to be simultaneous, but I'll fire these 2 at this missile unit because getting the missiles off the wall seems valuable. This guy is at range 3. We'll fire these 2 at this missile unit. Now, at the same time, I have to figure out what the missiles are doing. Oh, and there's this guy, who's at range 3. He does not want to fire at the accursed tower if he can help it, but that's the only place that he can hit at range 3. And he really sucks even worse at range 4. So, that's only a 1-point difference. And this is a better table. Well, no, they're the same table. So, yeah, it doesn't really make much difference. 1, 2, 3. I could actually throw them in against this. Okay, so that's what I'll do. And at the same time, the Muslims have to decide what they're doing. Now, their big goal is going to be to try to get rid of things that are filling the fosse. Now, nothing is allowed to fill the fosse this turn because everything moved this turn. They have to stand there for a complete turn. I think driving the archers away would be the most valuable, but I'm not sure about fosse filling. Let's see if there's... Unfortunately, these rules don't give, you know, a reference. SPI usually is pretty good about giving a numeric reference to things, but here they didn't bother. And it may be one of the things that bugs me a little bit about this system and why Acre was hard, or Tire was hard for me to comprehend. This one's a little easier. There we go, filling the fosse. Yeah, it doesn't look like... It looks like I can do it with missile units, so I'm going to try to shoot missile units here. And in that case, I really want to drive them back. So I'll shoot this. Well, these guys will combine on that, I guess. Here, you know, it's so hard to try to decide everything at once in this kind of thing. And now I'll forget what I did with the other side. And this is what I hate about this kind of design. This simultaneous crap. I got no idea. How good's the catapult? It's only going to be a 2, but it's got a fire at ranges 3 and 4. I got a bonus, I think, against Germans, right? Yeah, I got a bonus against German knights. I think these swordsmen are knights, even though they look like different from every other knight. So I got more of a chance of retreating them. So I'll fire, I guess, this over here. I don't know what's firing. I guess the missile fire here, the catapult somewhere else. Because these two are firing there, I'll fire these two there. Alright, I kind of decided what's going on here. Now there may be more fire somewhere else available, but it looks like that's about it for this side. Then it's going to get really ugly along here where there's a lot of missiles for the Saracens and a decent number for the Christians. So let's start resolving these. So I've got two here at range 2. Crossbows at range 2, they're going to be on the 3 chart, but there's a -1, which means I won't get an eliminated result. So I get a total of a 4 and a 1. A 4 causes a disabled or disordered. Now remember, these are going to be firing back at the same time, so let's do this, some of them at the same time. I got, oh, this isn't, remember the garrisons have step losses. Nothing else has step losses in the game, but the garrison units do. So I have to use these little disrupted markers for them, because they don't just flip over. Okay, so over here, I've got something else. I had 2 of these at this. I fired those 2. Guess these 2, I don't know what the hell they're firing at. Oh, what's under here? Oh, this guy already fired. They fired at that, I guess. Alright, so I've done these 2 and these 2. And now I come forward. I've got 2 more missiles here, which I'll shoot at these missiles. Oh, shit. One of these guys was in a thing, so he may have done more. I don't know. I'll just ignore it, but he was in a tower. These 2 are in towers. One's at range 2, one's at range 3. I'm going to need different colored dice to handle this. Yeah. Really obnoxious part of the system. And this applies to tire too. It just bugs me less in this because I don't have to do it as often, I guess. I get to play the knock down the walls game. Alright, so what do we got? We got a range 3 and a range 2 catapult. Or crossbow. Which is a 3 and a 2. Alright, and there's no modifiers. The 3 will be the red die, because these guys are in towers. And I get a disorder marker against whatever the hell I was shooting at, which I guess is this guy. Now coming back, I have 2 of these at range 2, and they'll shoot at this. These are regular archers. Range 2 gives them 2s. There's no bonus for that tower, the siege engine. I get 2 1s. That does me nothing. Now over here I had another guy at range 3. Crossbow, range 3. He's on the 2 table. He's got a -1. Only a 5 or a 6 will do anything. I get a disrupted. These don't do much. And that's not on the catapult. It's on the unit underneath. But stacking is a pain in this game. Alright, now I've got the 2 catapults which I'm firing. Well, I don't remember where I'm firing them anymore. I guess at range 3, but I wanted to hit the knights with them, to tell you the truth. So I'm going to hit one at 1, 2, 3, 4, and one at 3. And for catapults, that's both at 2. I get a +1 to the die roll because these are knights that I'm hitting. Actually, I don't care about this guy because he's not up there yet. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, but the other guy's harder. Oh no, they're German knights that I want to hit. Okay, whatever. So I want to hit this guy against him. And this other guy, I wanted to shoot at something, but I've shot at the other units. So I have no fucking clue. Let's go 1, 2, 3 and hit this Norman knight. Okay, against the German, I get a 5, which is going to be a disorder against the German knight. That's not going to do much of anything. And then the other one, I guess, is against this Norman. and I have no pluses here. I roll a 3, which is nothing. All right. Yeah, that was fun. Now I've got to do a lot more of it along here because I've just got tons of archers there. And I sure the hell am not going to do that on video. But in addition to the archers, I also have these ballistae and small catapults to cope with at the same time. And those have bigger ranges. Not huge, still out to 4. But more effectiveness at the ranges. We saw the small catapults on the wall, and they're kind of a pain there. I don't have to worry about line of sight in some senses. I do have to trace a line of sight. I can't trace it through a wall or a tent, but I can trace it through units, enemy or friendly, because I can arc the fire, I guess, but I can't arc it over a wall that's too high. Or a tent, because, you know, tents have flags on top, and those will stop arrows. Crusaders were sparse enough along here, and I was sitting down not on camera, so it wasn't that painful. You can see, though, we've created some gaps in the Crusader line, and some disrupted units, which don't really matter. They're going to undisrupt before anything can happen, because they're not going to get to melee. But I flipped them for the hell of it. But Richard has been pushed back, and that means these guys are kind of out of command. It was a bad idea to push Richard back, because I had this guy fleeing, and some other issues. In terms of deaths, only the Muslims suffered deaths, and you can see a couple of these cav. The light cav aren't particularly susceptible. I was picking on them. The crossbow's got some really good die rolls. There are a lot of 6s. And that means, remember, I need 30 of these to do a wipeout, to do a morale hit, and I've got 5 already. So, you know, there's still a long way to go, but that's pretty impressive for one impulse in, you know, one part of one impulse, just the fire phase in the first impulse of battle. These guys are in the box, not just for counting purposes, but more importantly, because these pairings will be recuperated. But I do want to pick on the army of Egypt and the army of Mosul rather than the Sinjab army, because these guys can come in when I'm not calling everything in. So the weaker I make them, the more effective I am. However, the Muslims think that they can win this on one big push. I am pretty sure they cannot. But that's their goal here. The Crusaders more or less know they cannot take the Acre itself. All right, so we've just done the simultaneous missile fire. I need a bit of a break, but we'll be going to the foss filling segment. There's nothing that happens there. Even though I'm on the foss, these guys all just moved up. There's no way to mark that, no way to really remember that. You have to just, like in a lot of things in this game, and like in a lot of things in Tyre, just remember what you did. This one, at this point, is hairier than Tyre was at any point in the game. I don't remember this one being as frustrating to me. But apparently it is. Now, then the next thing we go to is the Muslim garrison gets to melee. Now, they're not adjacent to anything, so that's not going to happen. Then the Crusaders get to melee. Well, actually, there is no melee because nobody's up on anybody else at all. So we'll skip through that. And then we go to disruption removal, and essentially all the disruptions come off at this point. Now, there are some issues. For example, I have to try to remember where the breaches are. Luckily, there aren't a lot, but I had to move them underneath the counters completely because otherwise I was getting confused. Got a bunch of disruptions over here, too. Oh, if any units retreated, they're also disrupted. That's unlikely to have an effect, but they do mention that in the errata. And I think that'll be it. We move to the next impulse in this assault. Alright, now the Crusaders have moved, trying to cover the expanses that have kind of, especially where they've gotten opened up, you can see now they've got kind of weaker positioning. Like in most games, I'm assuming a 2 hex distance with these fixed zones of controls isn't really a good idea. You want every other unit, but these guys aren't so hot at defense, so I kind of cluster them, and that left a couple of nice big spaces. where some of the heavier units are. It's not like you can really infiltrate, but I can move from here into here and then into here, so I can slip through. There's a weakness there, but there's a lot of cav in the background ready to take advantage of anything that does try to exploit too far into there. Plus, the outer works provide me with some defense. It's not going to work too much against the cav, but against other stuff, it should be pretty decent. And I'm not really too worried about the light cav here. It's the heavier cav that's going to really tear me a problem. And unfortunately, Saladin's guard is right where the weakness is. I did that on purpose. I set up the best archers there to fire their way through. But you got the Bretons coming down, and you got Angevins and Templars now, all sliding over, including some Knights over here to flank out. It doesn't matter that I'm outside of the outer works now. If I leave the outer works during a normal assault, it means that Saladin's whole army gets to come in, which is generally not something you want to have happen. But in this case, I want that extra outflanking ability to hurt the units and try to knock as many of them into the dead box. And meanwhile, I'm continuing with my assault. I've marked units by turning them kind of this way or this way in unreasonable directions to indicate that they've been sitting there for a turn, or they sat there this turn. They're going to fill foss. That's one of the best things I can do this turn, is fill all those foss hexes. Then if I get any breaches or anything, it's easier to get through. And who knows, you know, maybe I'll get through the wall this turn. It's not going to happen. I've played the game enough to, just a couple of times, but to know you get repulsed when you're facing the entire Muslim army in the city. You just can't break through it. Not in the amount of turns that you have. You can come kind of close. You can get, you know, into the city, but it's always the second or third assault that's going to get you through. Saladin forced this assault, though. So it's not, you know, under optimal conditions. I don't have as many breaches as I would like. I'm trying to be careful, doing what I can to prevent the camps from falling, because I don't want to lose automatically, obviously. And now I go to the Muslim movement. There's not a lot I can do up on these walls. They're pretty well defended where I most want them defended, where the damage is. And, well, I might shift something around. But otherwise, down here, I've got a lot to try to figure out how I want to try to advance in and everything. You can see I'm surging through the outer works where I can. Now remember, melee ordering is weird here. So the Muslims are going to undertake Crusader melee attacks before they get to get their counter swing, and being in these ditches really sucks for that. Of course, I've got things like Saladin's guard through there, but my main goal is to try to disrupt the Crusader units along the line where I'm actually assaulting, and over here, and that way they won't be able to attack me, and then I'll be able to attack them. And, well, they're still powerful, but melee doesn't hurt anyone except the person being attacked. So, you know, it might allow me to gain some ground. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it, is the overwhelming firepower will allow me to break through and then keep pushing and maybe be able to get the camps. What do I need? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so there's plenty in here that I could take. And that doesn't look terribly well defended. This could be over quickly. I think I've said that before. Okay, well, I've been working my way around here, and you can see not much happened here. Some disruptions which I think hinder a foss attempt, if anybody's doing that. Some of them are. This guy was, and I think he's not going to be able to now. Over here, though, we see we've driven some of the forces back with the archery fire, so we don't have to actually face them in combat, and it's actually kind of nice. You can see we're not going to actually melee anything, but we lost a couple of units in to the missile fire ourselves. Being in the foss, remember, gives us a +1 penalty when you're being fired on. Now over here, I'm going to shoot the naphtha guy to force a retreat here. I'm also going to unleash at least one of these archers in here. The others will fire at this guy. But I want to force this out of there so I can just, you know, keep pushing forward. Now that naphtha has to get recorded. I don't remember if I'm allowed 2. I think I'm allowed 3 naphtha fires throughout the course of the game. They can all be in one assault, which probably is wise if need be, just because, well, I don't see any reason to keep him, you know. He has to be next to them, so in this kind of condition, he's not that good a combat unit. You kind of want to use him for his special purpose. But I do get to fire that arrow as well, and that's at range 1 for regular bowman, so it's on the 3 table. I could eliminate something there, which is kind of cool. Nope. I would have gotten a disorder, which would have prevented an attack anyway, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Note that the retreat, this is one of those little differences between this and Tyre. The retreat is full movement plus 3 instead of full movement plus 2. It may just be a scale issue here. The units do seem to have slightly higher movement in this in general. Although, I don't know, the knights are no better than hoplites, but you'd imagine the knights probably actually move faster than a hoplite formation would, because it's a loose formation. Anyway, I'll continue down the line with the rest of the show. Zoom in on another factor. This unit here was in the ditch here, and he got kind of lucky, he didn't get killed. But he's allowed to retreat through the archers. I don't know if I did that entire. You're allowed to do it entire. I think I may have killed a unit that I shouldn't have. I remember kind of at the point of the island where the main assault was taking place. I think something ended up dying because it didn't retreat through some of the guards' archers, and it should have been allowed to. It's been bugging me since I was reading the rules to these. Another quickie to mention. This horse archer here, I probably shouldn't have put him here, but I want to get more movement is the main reason that he's in there. I want to get him out where he can start pushing other things back with his archery. But he actually, and like a lot of the archers, but he's actually worse at close range. There are others that are too, you know, like the ballistae and stuff. But the horse archers do not like being close. They like to have a lot of distance. So charging up like that is kind of iffy. And he's in real trouble if he gets attacked, obviously, with his 1 strength point. But I'm hoping to chase this thing out before it gets this. Quick look at what the rest of the missiles have done on this side. A lot of disruptions actually on the Christian units. That's sufficient that I don't get attacked by them, which is what really mattered. But I also didn't push them aside, and I'm not able to just drive through as easily, which means the other Christian units are going to be able to come up and maybe trap me in the outer works, which would suck. Over here, I think I'm fairly safe. It could come charging out, though. I can do some cav charges with these, and that'll be kind of painful when that happens. But got to try to break through, right? Even the losses are accumulating. No losses for the Crusaders yet. This reminds me of Constantinople. You never lose a unit as the Crusaders or as the defenders in Constantinople because they're so heavily armored. It's like really a rare thing to have a unit hit. Of course, we haven't had anything hit here along the walls either, so they're not as heavily armored. I am finding it a lot easier to play without trying to do it on camera, and as I get more used to it. It is still kind of annoying though, but like Tyre, it takes some getting used to. All right, it's melee time. Nothing over here. Oh, wait, no, FOSS filling first, right? Yeah, FOSS filling comes before melee. So we've got a whole bunch of places where we have FOSS to fill, and unfortunately, we don't have a lot of counters for it. I'm going to have to dig something up. But let's do a few of them to see. So this guy was new, so he can't fill any. But I'm going to fill, let's see which direction I want to go. Yeah, I got some breaks in my FOSS filling here. So I'm going to fill here, here, here. This guy can't fill, this guy can't fill. This guy can. I want to make sure I get that. And, oh no, I'm out of counters. I got to find something that I can use. I think what I'm going to use is those little, instead of the FOSS counters, I'm going to use the little dots that I have here. I don't remember what they're from, vampire type game or something. They were just little bits of the counter sheet that, I don't know why there were tons of extras. They have no use. They're just little dots that have no use. All right, I'll use them instead because that'll leave me with the disruption. There we have what that looks like. It's not too bad, but they're a little thick, not being old SPI era counters. So things will kind of wobble on top of them, but that's okay. All right, on to melee. Now we have very little in the way of melee. Let's take care of this guy first. He wants to attack this. Now, you would say, oh, that's 3-1, 6-2, except the terrain. The outer works defender is halved in strength. Okay, so no penalty for the attacker. The marsh and the river ravine give you a penalty for the attacker. So yeah, we got a 3-1. And the charts aren't exactly the same again between the games. No biggie about that, I guess. But if we take a look at them, the 7-1 here goes DRREEE, and this doesn't have a disrupted on the 7-1. So there's definitely some little differences. I don't find that too big a deal because the rest of the system is very similar. Okay, so on the 3-1, do we have any modifiers? No army morale modifiers, and we actually have the things that change that listed on here. But we do have to worry about possible morale modifiers here. So I've got Zane next to me. I can't throw his strength in, but I can throw his 2-point morale modifier in, so I have a +2. The English have to rely on Richard. He's back here. He's 1, 2, 3 hexes away, so he throws his 3-point morale. So it ends up a net of -1 on the 3-1 table. 2 minus 1 is 1. That's not going to budge them. And we'll continue that along the way. And you'll see disrupted units have the same strength as they have on their undisrupted side. They just don't get to attack, and none of the Crusader units get to attack this turn. I'm just making sure of that. So I've just got a couple of attacks by the Muslim. There was no effect whatsoever from those attacks. This guy's disrupted already, and this guy was very weak. This guy's disrupted or something under here. This guy's pretty weak compared to the 10 points on him, 12 points on him. So, you know, I'm making a 1-2 attack and not at any penalty because of the leadership being the same. Both of them give the same morale bonus. So all I've got left to do is undisrupt things, and then I'll be moving the impulse marker forward and into the next. Okay, so like the rest of this series, I found a problem. I remembered there being something that kind of disturbed me about it beyond the interleaving of the firing and stuff like that. The assault impulse goes Crusader movement, Muslim movement, la 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 la, Crusader melee, Muslim melee. Great. Okay. The Crusader has charging cav. I can run away from the charging cav. Now there's this retreat before combat option, and I got no problem. My cav can run away from it. That's fine. Only the lighter cav, not the and the mediums, not the heavy-duty armored stuff. So I can retreat away from the charging cav though with anything because I move after it. It makes the whole Muslim retreat before combat options silly because you'd never actually need them unless you were willing to take the attack. And that's not bad. I mean, I don't mind that being there then. But there's nothing in the... I can always run away from the Crusaders during movement. And there's nothing... and the Crusader cav charge, which seems to say anything about that. It just says I get a double attack if I manage to line one up. So I'm assuming that the Crusader charges can always be avoided, I guess. I don't know if this is the intention. Certainly how the rules are written. It's a little disturbing, but it may reflect the reality fairly well, which is to say that the Muslims would disperse in front of that cav charge, and that the cav... Now, the cav becomes disrupted as soon as it finishes the melee of its charge. So the way it's actually worded, has to run through 4 clear hexes in a straight line during the movement segment. And then in the melee segment, it performs a melee attack at double strength. After the melee attack has been resolved, the Crusader unit is disrupted. So I'm assuming if the Crusader doesn't actually contact the enemy, they're not going to be disrupted by it. I don't know. It almost feels to me like it should actually take combat in place during the melee, during the movement segment, but it's very clear and very specific about what is intended there. And these rules overall seem to work, even if they're a little too fiddly, so I'm not really willing to break this, because I do understand a reason why the Muslims would always be able to fall away from even a cav charge. I'm just not sure I'm thrilled with it, but this isn't a game that's a pure simulation in a lot of ways. There's an abstraction level having to do with... well, first of all, you have non-simultaneous movement, right? But I mean, beyond what most war games seem to have, there's this, I don't know, because of the interleaving of the actions, etc., it feels like there's something intended here. And there's also this, it's more about pushing the enemy inward and taking territory than it really is about actually clashing and fighting things out. Now that's a little disappointing to me, at least at one point in my life. I'm less upset by it now. It feels kind of Avalon Hill-ish in some ways, but, you know, I've learned to respect those games, and I think maybe this is meant to not really try to inflict casualties as much. We'll see. To my woes on the charge, there's nothing to mark a charge. So for example, this guy wants to charge. Well, he's not going to get to attack until the melee phase. Again, I don't really feel like this system for this, Tyre, and for that matter, Constantinople uses something similar, if I recall correctly. But you don't have to use it there much. Has been tested adequately before publication. And, you know, it was never a terribly well-sold game, I suspect, although it's very interesting. So, you know, I'm going to send this guy 1, 2, 3, 4. He has to go into this hex to maintain a straight line. And I'll just mark him with the other side of one of these counters to indicate that he's charging. That'll give him the double strength if he can still hit that unit. But there's no reason to believe that that'll be there, because it can move out to here 4, and then even 5 to there, but maybe the charge will still work if I move there. But if it moves here, it's gone. You know, it's out of range. So those cav charges are pretty damn useless. And when I'm not in the fosse, there's not even really any choice in the matter at all. The charging unit, though, cannot be fired at, which is kind of an interesting option. We're really kind of putting the screws on the Muslims now. Assaults along where the fosse has been filled in, because there's no penalty for being in those hexes. Some of them include my towers, which means that I don't have to go through the ladder assault phase. Now, remember, I don't have to attack everything that I'm adjacent to. It's not like those kind of games. I get to pick my targets. So basically, the defender has to knock out, or at least disrupt, as many of my units as they can. Now, they get not only the missile fire exchange, but they're also going to get first attack, which should work pretty well. They've got a problem. Well, not really. The zones of control, if I recall correctly, don't extend onto unbroken wall spaces. So, where, you know, except for here, and I think here, I can shift my troops around to react to what's going on. But down here now, I've got these charging cav a couple of places where I've got them, and the Muslims have to decide, do they want to take that hit? It's going to hit them before they get to hit, or do they need to fall back? If they fall back, they're kind of losing what they need to do. And that's why I don't think it's that terrible a thing that they get pushed away. You know, I said old Avalon Hill games when I was speaking about the pushback nature of this. That's actually more an SPI thing than an Avalon Hill thing. SPI is the one who added retreats to the games. I was never a big fan of most of those earlier games of either side. I don't have many of the really early SPI ones. Winter War rocks, though. Anyway, definitely looking like we're pushing enough Crusaders into place to prevent the Muslims from doing anything except maybe in this region. And this is where I've got my big guards. So that's where the breakthrough is going to happen if it's going to happen. Of course, it does not look good for the Muslims in terms of losses so far. And this doesn't look unpromising. I think there's a shot of getting through there. For the most part, we chose to run away from the charging cav. For example, here, running towards the enemy. Over here, we're taking it because we have some archery superiority, which we have almost everywhere. But our goal is not to fight these. Our goal is to push through and try to get a victory. Trying to swamp it with these heavy, good units. Just crushing in, and then lines of archers behind it, although this isn't. And this is the Naphtha unit. I didn't want to leave that in the front line. I don't feel like firing Naphtha off at this point. I've gotten my breach through the outer works, more or less. Not really, but I found that it didn't help to push a unit back that just came back. And then over here I've got a punch through. This should be very, very powerful, especially against the poor archers here. This unit ran away from the charging cav here and then surrounding this poor archer. This is where my weight is, really. I've got, unfortunately, my light cav, or one set of my light cav. I've got another set kicking around down here. Which really looks like units, but doesn't quite count as units. They can't melee, obviously, but they also can't really withstand a melee. I think I'm going to have to split this video in half, even though it's, you know, in the middle of the one turn. I moved a few units on the wall to improve my firing shots and to improve the defenses in some key areas that look like they're getting assaulted. Like, for example, here in the breach, I've got this guy, but he can climb a wall, and other people can shift into that breach because they're not in zones. Of course, if the Crusaders take the wall in key locations, I've got some problems in terms of my mobility, so it might not work out too well. All right, time to shoot. This is unpleasant. And here's what's goofy, and the same applies to Tyre with this system, and why I say it's very abstracted. You got units running up and bouncing back, running up and bouncing back. It just doesn't feel natural. It may be representative of, you know, where troops aren't really able to engage as much anymore. But the degree to which they're falling back, etc., is just extreme. Given, we're not talking about a morale loss here, I don't think. I mean, an army couldn't withstand these kind of holes in it. We're talking about something that just doesn't look real, and it feels very wrong. And the units just kind of creep their way back as they come forward. Anyway. A lot of successful fire. We actually have our first loss of a Crusader unit, and a significant Cav unit went down too. A couple of leaders are wounded and won't be coming back for a while, but that's just from the missile fire. And now we go into the melee itself, and we've got the one charge coming in. Now, if this guy breaks, well, or is destroyed, the Cav has to follow into those outer works. And that is the way. You can't Cav charge people in the outer works when there's not an assault going on. Well, when there's not a full army engagement going on during your assault, because you might end up running past the outer works and causing the whole army to come in at that point. Of course, with the beating the Muslims are taking, maybe it won't be that big a deal. Nah, they still got a pretty decent army. All right. Well, I guess I don't know if I really want to do the assaults on camera across the wall or anywhere else, to tell you the truth. I don't know if I've done any on camera. So let's pick through this one and see what we've got here. I know I did them entire. So first these guys get to attack. Shit, I haven't done them yet. I have done the missile fire from them. So, not the disrupted, not this. This guy has an attack. And he wants to attack the guy who's not on a ladder. That's just going to be a 1 to 2. There's no bonus for FOSS or anything like that. So I need a 6 to disrupt it. Oh, that could force a retreat. It's already a disrupted unit. No. Okay. Let's take a look at a few more here. Can't attack from here. I'm up here with a 6. A 6, well, I might as well go for the 1 to 2 here, but I got a problem with that because Leopold's there, and actually I had a problem with this because Walter's there. I don't know where my leader is. Looks like he's there. So he adds 2. Leopold only adds 1. So yeah, I can attack Leopold at 1 to 2. I actually have a +1 to the die roll and a chance to kind of neutralize his heavy unit, which doesn't come true. Now, that's all the garrison attacks. Now I get to go to Crusader attacks. Let's look for that charge. Well, that's down here, and I want to get through some of these. So here I have, and I just want to make sure that I get a few of these. Here I have these 2 Bretons at 16 strength points. They're facing 6, 7, 8 because the leader's there. So I've got 2 to 1 odds. Conrad leads the Bretons. He's got a +1 morale on there over the leader for the Muslims. So I roll a die. I get a 6. That's going to be a retreat. This could be a problem. I got to retreat 8 hexes. 1. These are missile units, so I can run through them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I didn't have to fall off the board. The Bretons do not have to advance, but they see no reason that they don't want to. They could actually keep advancing, and that seems wise. So they're going to just push forward into the path of retreat. Over here, I don't get an attack. Over here, I have my charge. So here I have 12 strength points. I don't know where Richard ran back here against Saif. Saif has 6, but he's halved for being in the ditch. So he's 3. So I've got 4 to 1. Oh. No, I'm sorry. He's 9. So he's 4. It's 3 to 1. But I've got a 2-point morale bonus on him. So it's going to be, what did I say? 3 to 1 at -2. Which could have some effect. Not with a 1 rolled, it isn't. This is now disrupted, which will increase its chance of retreating. These are 2, but it doesn't really matter. I can just pluck these off. They're kind of out of play right now. I got 1 more Crusader attack capable here. He's an 8 strength point. If he hits Phalag 3's units, he's going to be facing the morale bonus no matter what. But I want to hit the units in the works because they're weaker. So I can do a 2 to 1. I'll do it against this one because I don't want to go chasing there. I don't have to chase anyway, do I? I'm not knights. No, I'm just men-at-arms. Alright, well let's hit this one anyway. So I'm at 2 to 1. My morale level, though, is only 1 versus his 2. So I'm 2 to 1 at -1. And I only get a 2, which doesn't even reduce their ability to attack. Now let's go over to them. Whew. Hey, I forgot the Crusaders over here. This is what I really wanted to show, which was the attacks coming here. Let's see what we've got. Leopold Swabians. Well, they got to climb a ladder, and unfortunately they're Germans. Germans climbing a ladder. What are they? They only succeed on a 4 or higher, I think. Yeah. So I need a 4 or higher. Now the question is, do I want to throw these Normans in on with them? And in order to determine that, I've got to kind of peek and see what I've got here. I've got 6 strength points. That'll be doubled to 12. The Normans aren't going to help. So the answer is no, and I'll make a roll to see if I make it up the ladder. I do not. All right, let's look at our next attack here. Got 8 Normans to 12. It could be 18, 19, 20 to 12 if I like. Or I could be making an attack, and breaches I think are doubled as well. Yeah. The problem with this guy, now they're both on the wall. Yeah, I see no real reason to attack in the breach. Particularly, I want the wall hex more. 8 to 12 is not good. 20 to 12 is better. So I've got a 1 to 1 attack. But this guy has a 2 morale. And I've got a 2 morale, so that evens out. So we're on the 1 to 1 table. We're not going to move him, though. That's the problem. We might disrupt this guy and get a way in. Yeah, all right. 8 to 12 is 1 to 2 at even, I believe. What are the morales? 2. Yeah, this is a lot harder on video. Okay, I didn't move him. That's no big deal. I don't think anything could have come of that. I'm not having to roll ladder attacks because I'm in the siege thing. Okay, here I have 12 to 18, so that's 1 to 2 at even as well. And the tower doesn't help me in any particular way there. There I do not get a 6 either. Disrupted, disrupted. I've got some knights here who could climb. They're going to want to attack the disrupted units. Yes, it's 1 to 2. Let's see if they make it up a ladder. They only fail on a 1 or 2 because they're not German knights. So they make it up the ladder, and they're at 1 to 2. Leadership, I have Geoffrey there. And these guys are out of range, so I get +2 to the die roll. That'll help quite a bit. And I disordered them. Well, they're already disordered, so they have to retreat. Now, because they're on the wall, they only retreat 2 spaces, but they have to leave the wall. And I can leave that on them. Now I'm allowed to actually gain the wall. And finally, we go to the outer Muslims. And let's pick on some of the things here. This guy was disrupted, so he can't attack. What about these guys? I've got 24 to 8, 3 to 1, and a +1 to the die roll. That doesn't do it. Over here I have 8, 11 to 2 is 5 to 1 at, I think, +2 to the die roll because I'm outside of Guy's range. Oh, 5 is an elimination there. Kill off some of the Jerusalemites. And I got one more attack. Oh no, I got lots of more attacks. Alright, well, you've seen how the attacks go. I'm not going to go through the rest of them. This video is long enough as it is. So I'll come back with a quick report and then we'll load it up. As you can see, the Muslims were quite effective at busting things up. In fact, killing a hospitaller, English, and really kind of breaking things open in this area. That's going to be tough to recover from. Anyway, I've got to recover the disruptions, and then we'll be moving into Impulse 4. And you can see these assaults take significantly more than the rest of the game. All right, I'll load this one up.